But I wanted to say one thing really, really briefly before we get too deep into this. And I wanted to speak to those of you in here who you feel like there's a call on your life, but you don't feel cut out to do it. And I know that there's a number of people here. I know that you feel like you've been called by God to do something great, but you don't feel like you have a whole lot of greatness within you. And I'm here to tell you that you don't have to have a lot of greatness within you to do something wonderful. You just need to be friends with the one who's great. Honestly. I don't want it to sound trite. I don't want it to come across that way. But honestly, if you want to change the world, if you truly wanted to change the world, you just need to ask him for an idea and then be obedient when he gives you one. I've mentioned this a few times. I think it's in my first book. But I know for a fact that I was not God's first choice to do what I'm doing. I was not. I wasn't. It's interesting. You look back and I've made these films that have, in a sense, helped change the temperature of the church around the world. And there's a temptation to think that you were God's man all along. That I was born for this. That I was destined for this. And I can tell you that nothing is further from the truth. I was not his first choice. He had a lot of other choices before he got to me. And how do I know this? I know this because when I made Finger of God, I released it. How I released Finger of God, people always ask, well, how did you get distribution? I didn't get distribution. I put it up on Amazon and I walked away. That was my distribution plan for Finger of God. And because I'm like, and my wife asked me once, she's like, how many copies of this movie do you think you're actually going to sell? And I was like, sweetie, like, this is the weirdest movie I've ever seen. And I made it. I don't think anybody's going to want to watch this thing. I made it for $20,000, most of which I borrowed from family or friends. 75% of Finger of God was bankrolled by my 95-year-old Mennonite grandmother, just because she believed in her grandson. I made this movie, and all of the money was spent on travel. And I took my sabbatical. I learned how to edit, and I edited the movie together over 6 months. And I put it together, and I put it on a DVD, and I threw it up on Amazon, and I literally walked away. Because I don't know, what else can I do? I don't know anybody. And then it just started to find an audience. And people started to watch it, and they started to tell other people, you got to see this really crazy movie. And it was probably one of the most pure word-of-mouth underground hits you could possibly have. I didn't do anything. I literally would sit at home. There'd be days where I'd sit, and the phone would just ring of people who wanted to give me things, who wanted to give me thousands of dollars for 400 copies of the movie, and I didn't have to do anything. I could sit here and tell you some other things, and maybe if we get to Q&A, if you really are curious about more of like how it happened, how it became this kind of behemoth. But when my wife asked me how many do I think I'm going to sell, I said I'll be happy if I sell 1,000 copies, because then at least I can pay Grandma back. I just wanted to pay Grandma back. That's really all I wanted to do. And she said, well, what would it be? Like, what would be God? Like, what's impossible? I'm like, it's 10,000 copies. 10,000 copies would be like a miracle, right? There's no way in the world I could ever sell 10,000 copies of this thing. And at this point, we're well over 100,000 copies of Finger of God. And we've only recently maybe started to do a little advertising, but we never really advertised we never did marketing for it or anything like that. And so to get back to my point, when Finger of God came out and it started to get some traction, I'd had people contacting me. Either I'd go to churches and speak, or they'd email me. And I have at least 15 emails in my inbox of people who are telling me, years ago, the Lord came to me and he asked me very specifically to travel the world and make a movie about the miraculous. And I said no. And I realized I didn't have the money, or I was too afraid to do it. I own my own production company. I could have done this, and I could have done a great job. And I wrestled with this thing for years, and then I just looked up and I saw that you had gone and made my movie. 15 people. Wow. So I am, at best, God's 16th choice. Look, guys, there's a reason I didn't know how to turn on a camera. He was getting to the bottom of the barrel with me. And the only reason I'm standing here headlighting something called, how to make movies is because I'm the one idiot who said yes. I'm the one guy who just said, okay, that's what you want me to do, I'll do it. And that's why I'm standing here talking to you guys. So don't hide behind I'm too old, I don't know what I'm doing, I'm not prepared for this. Don't hide behind that. Too many people hide behind it. If he's truly calling you, you cannot fail. I'm living proof. He is not in the business of failure. Do you understand me? He doesn't know how to fail. Like, he literally he has no concept of failure. So you say yes, and you're guaranteed to succeed.